Too many dogs of advanced years find themselves at shelters where their chances of adoption are almost zero. Others are desperate for a new home because of an owner's death, a move, owners working much longer hours, trouble with small children in the home, or bad financial circumstances. In 2004, a friend asked Judith and Lee Piper to save an ailing oldster named Liza, who had been dumped at a shelter. In their loving home, Liza thrived, and though she didn't have long to live, she had some happy days. It only took a few more elderly shelter dogs for the Pipers to realize that it wasn't all that rare for people to abandon an old companion, and to see that in shelters, these dogs were passed over for adoption. At some point, they looked at each other and said, "You know, this just isn't right. They can't be dying like this." Judith sold the tack store she'd run for 18 years to dedicate herself to the mission of providing quality of life for old dogs as long as possible, and then letting them go, surrounded by friends rather than alone in a concrete cell. Old Dog Haven was founded in 2004 to provide safe, loving homes for abandoned senior dogs who have almost no chance of adoption in a shelter. Old Dog Haven does not have a kennel. All the dogs live in homes as members of temporary or permanent final refuge families. They take dogs 8 years and older from shelters and occasionally from owners in the western Washington area. They adopt out dogs that have a reasonable life expectancy. However, more than 90% of the dogs are final refuge or permanent foster or hospice residents, too frail or sick for adoption. ODH's mission is to give these dogs a loving family and a good quality of life in their final months, years, weeks, or even days. They have had at least 200 dogs in their care at all times. Many of the dogs come to ODH in poor physical condition, malnourished, sick, teeth rotting, and worse. ODH makes sure their dogs receive thorough checkups, blood and urine analysis, dental exams and treatment, and sometimes ophthalmology exams. ODH provides all veterinary care, medications, medically required supplements, and the like for all dogs in foster care. Their medical costs average $40,000 per month, and 93% of the expenses are for old dog care. ODH provides support, makes medical decisions, and counsels when needed. The foster parents pay for food and most equipment and grooming. They are responsible for getting the dog to all needed appointments. The foster homes, both temporary and permanent, total about 140 to 145 most of the time. How do they keep their volunteers in foster homes inspired? The dogs do it. It's never a problem. The dogs are wonderful and so rewarding that once you take one in, you're likely to be hooked. What's so special about an old dog? Wisdom, grace, stability of personality, calmness of soul. ODH depends on donations. Not everyone is able to take in another old dog, but the generous donors make their own essential contribution, allowing ODH to take good care of these dogs. ODH is indebted to all the wonderful people who volunteer so many hours to help homeless old dogs. Administrative volunteers, events and outreach volunteers, volunteer groups, and foster families, and the transport volunteers who drive long distances on very short notice to pick up a really smelly and maybe sick old creature and get him to a safe home. The ODH family is absolutely the best. It's hard to think about the hundreds of dogs who would have died in shelters by themselves if it hadn't been for Judith. Judith is an amazing person who is focused on a population that most would rather forget. Helping them is sometimes challenging, is often expensive, but is very rewarding. ODH's goal is that their last years are happy and that they die safe and at peace, knowing they are loved. Wouldn't we all wish this for our own pets and for ourselves?